All right, so let's talk a little bit about sharps and flats. So to be able to express ourselves on piano, we want to be able to, play a lot of chords. And a lot of those chords are going to have a ton of different scales with sharps or flats, and you won't know which scale to solo over if you don't know how many sharps or flats it has. So this is really going to help with that. So first we need to know what a half step is. So just in terms of like when I go from here on the piano, like what is a half step, or what are these intervals called? So like from here to here, that's called a whole step, but from here to here, this is called a half step. So if you're going to the note that's like immediately next to the note you're on C here, you go up one half step and you'll be right here at this C sharp. Or if you go up one more half step, you'll be at D, and then one more half step, you'll be at E flat here, and then E and F. And so this is a half step. It's when you're just going up by one immediate note on the piano. And whenever you come to a place like this, a half step is just like you don't go from this C to the D. You actually go from C to C sharp first. So that's called a half step. And we'll just leave it at that for now. So a half step is when you go from the actual note like F, and then you just go up just a little bit to that F sharp. And then from here you can go up to this G and then G sharp. And in terms of sharps and flats, a flat is just when you take this note and then you flat it, so you go down a half step. Or sharping, you just go up a half step. So if I were to pick like a note, so just to have you be interactive with me, like if we were to do this A, like what would this A be if we moved it up here? So we would have an A sharp, or this could also be called a B flat. So each of these notes right here, they can always be called two things. They can either be called like for this note, this could be called E flat, or this could be called D sharp. And so if you just try it right here, so what would this note be? We just did that. Let's do this note. So right here. So if we were trying to find what this note is, what is it called? Then what would it be called? It would be called actually a G sharp. It'd be called, or it could be called an A flat. Now let's do one more. So right here, this could be called a C sharp or a D flat. So sharping or flatting just means you either go up or down one half step from that note. So if I say an E flat, I mean E and then one half step down, E flat. So that's a little bit about just what a sharp or flat is. But now we're going to use this term called the order of sharps or flats. So when you have a major scale, like a C major scale or an F major scale, all these scales have different sharps or different numbers of sharps or flats. And those numbers of sharps or flats, they are always added in a certain way. So what I mean by that is like C major, we have 0 sharps or flats here. And then when I go to F major, the F major scale, it has 1 flat in it. And what that means is that we're going to add 1 flat to all these white keys, basically. And if I have a major scale with 2 flats, then I would just be adding two flats to that, to all white keys, right? But if I say, add 2 flats to all white keys, you wouldn't know which flat to add. You'd be like, what do you even mean? like if I would have this like all white keys scale, and then I say add 2 flats, you don't know which flat to add first. So because of that, we use this little, it's just kind of like a shortcut to tell you like which notes to flat or sharp first. And so, and just bear with me on this. If you're not understanding completely, I'll definitely explain this by the end of it and in the next lesson as well. We're just going to keep going over this like sharps and flats thing because I really want you to get it so that you can like solo on scales in your right hand while playing chords in your left hand. And I'll say like, oh, the scale in your right hand is going to be 2 flats, and then you should just know exactly which scale I'm talking about. And that gives you like tremendous power when you're playing chords, because if I can just play a chord in my left hand and then I know exactly what scale to solo in, and I know which flats to flat, then I'll know which scale to play in, and therefore I'll know what notes sound good on that chord. So that's just kind of like the reason why learning sharps and flats is really helpful. So what we were on the order of sharps and flats. So there's a certain order that they're added in, and that is going to be in this little shortcut term, bead GCF. So BEAD GCF. If you just like write that out, BEAD GCF. Now that, if you read it from left to right, that's the order that flats are added. So if I have a C major chord here, right? And then we go to a C minor, minor 7 chord, we're going to add 2 flats because we're flatting the 3rd and the 7th. And if I wasn't looking at the keyboard and I just said, oh, well, you know, C minor 7 has 2 flats in it, but I don't know the scale because I don't know which flats to flat. You know, like what would I use in my right hand? Then you would just use this bead GCF, B-E-A-D GCF, to tell you that, oh, well, I have 2 flats, so the first 2 flats that I would add would be B, so B flat, and E, or E flat. So those would be the 2 flats that I would add to the all white keys, basically, to solo. So if I said a major scale has it has 3 flats in it, then you would know that, oh, well, at least you know, even if you don't know how to like see it on the keyboard, you know just by looking at BEAD GCF that you flat B first, and then you have E flat, and then you have A flat. So you would know to just flat like E, B, and A. So these notes would go here. And that's the new scale that you would use. So you would just kind of go from all white keys to flatting these 3 notes. So now you can kind of visualize that scale. And I don't expect this to be easy for you, like and if it's your first time just hearing about this, but you'll definitely get a lot better at it as you practice it. And as you think of like how many sharps or flats one scale has, then it'll be a lot easier for you to figure out like which flats those are and like how you would play it and what notes you need to change from this all white keys scale to get to that scale so you can solo in your right hand. So if I had let's say a major scale had 4 flats in it, then you would just flat B, E, A, and D. So you'd have B flat, E flat, A flat, and then D flat here. Those are the notes you would change, and then you just fill in with the rest of the white notes that you didn't change. And then one last note about this is that the order of flats is actually just the order of sharps, but backwards. So if you ever need to find out, say a major scale has 1 sharp, 2 sharps, 3 sharps, then all you do is you go backwards in this order of flats. So instead of B, E, A, D, G, C, F, you go F, C, G. You could just go backwards in that using that little shortcut. So if I were to say, okay, let's go to a major scale that has 3 sharps, then you would know that the 3 sharps that you have in that scale are going to be F sharp, G sharp, and C sharp. And they would be added in that order. So F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. Because you're reading this shortcut from the right to the left. And I know, some of you may not find this like as exciting. And it definitely, like when I was learning it, I wasn't that excited about it either. But once I learned the power of it and like being able to say, hey, I want to play in 2 flats, then just, I can just bam, I can just play it. I know exactly what scale to use, and I can play the chord as well. Then you'll notice that like that helps you immensely when you're trying to improvise or to just learn the scale that you need to play over that particular chord. And so lastly, let's just try this one more time. So if you were doing like a scale in, let's say your scale had 4 sharps, then you would take this bead GCF and you would go from the right to the left. So you would take that GCF, so you'd know that you have F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, and also D sharp, right? So you're just switching around this order of flats and then going backwards to get the order of sharps. And so just bear with me. I know this stuff it can be really hard to get or to understand, but I'll just keep hitting you with all these different quizzes on how many sharps or flats does this have, and then you'll eventually start to get it as we move forward.